Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. Today we are going to take a look at a nice new flashy, well new to me at least, infinity reinforcement model, and that is the Lizard Squadron for the Nomads. Partly for two reasons. Number one, because, well, giant robots are always cool, and number two, I believe it's the subconscious orc player in me that is just attracted to things that go fast and are nice and red. So, I am absolutely a sucker for giant mechs. Despite the fact that almost everything I tend to paint is fantasy, oh yeah, you better believe it. I am always a lifelong mecha head. So, the newer models, at least the larger scale stuff from Corvus Belli, often is going to be, I'm like, I don't even know if I need that stuff, so I better just dump it out there just in case. Going to be made in this kind of plasticky resin, which they like to refer to as the Cyocast. Now, sometimes this works out fantastic, and sometimes the results are less than adequate. I'm assuming that little piece that broke off looks to be part of the ammo belt chain, so we will need to fix that. Much like typical Corvus Belli models, there is going to be a little bit of cleanup. Not as much guesswork as with some of the crazier Infinity models, that I wasn't sure if I was actually destroying it in the process of removing said pieces of metal or plastic that I wasn't sure what they were. And I am looking for a knife, because obviously my fingernails are not going to open these bags. And thank you, Instagram, for distracting me with the fact that I have way more likes than I would care to admit on stuff that I haven't posted in some time. I have been really bad about that, and I apologize to everybody out there. It's so freaking hot since we got back in the summer. I just have not bothered to put anything up. Okay, so there we go. Looking at the two halves that are going to form the body. It doesn't look like it's going to be all that massive. But if you're playing certain games that aren't going to be using scale anyway, that may not be much of a problem. So it looks like minus little broken or dinged off pieces that I'm going to end up losing. You've got the two halves to form the body, you've got the legs, you've got what seems to be some sort of missile pod or something along those lines, and the two arms. Actually pretty straightforward. Typical 60mm base. I'm assuming that's 60. It looks like it. We're going to call it is. So I'm assuming this is not going to take me too long or be that challenging, fingers crossed, to get put together. So give me a moment. We'll put it all glued on and we'll see how it turns out. So sit tight. Alright, we got our lizard put together here. Not that it took very long, obviously. But, the more I look at it, the more I realize I'm not the biggest fan of this material. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, the details are absolutely there. I just feel like it feels flimsy. And I'm sure it's Cyocast. It feels like Cyocast. And I'm now realizing that's not any actual part of him. I have no idea what's supposed to happen with the piece that goes back here, and it doesn't seem like a whole lot is lost without putting it on there. And I'll be honest, I don't know where I stuck it now. So that's going to be a me issue that needs to be solved in the relatively near future, but it's not like it looks all that lost without it on there. Oh boy. I thought I fixed everything there. So as you can see here, maybe the ammo belt is okay. There was a little piece that actually snapped off during travel and transit to my home, and I did try gluing it back on. I guess the belt fed and then it just goes to the drum like that. I thought there was more to it. The support arm didn't exactly attach right there, but again, it's not going to make a huge difference. I mean, all in all, it's not a bad looking figure. It's just, I feel for the price point, I feel like there should be a bit more to it. Not to say it's a bad sculpt necessarily, or that it's not in line with, this is like the only painted heavy tag that I've got, as if all tags aren't heavy. You can see it's pretty much in line with at least the metal salamander I've got here. I got my Oyuroi primed to get it painted. And you can, again, see, being that they're both in the same material, pretty much about head-to-head with each other there. And I'm just now realizing that the iguana doesn't have the little actual hands like all the other tags do. And I thought that was, like, primarily an olive thing, if I'm remembering my lore correctly. But, you know, it is what it is. For me, you know, it's pretty straightforward, nice looking power armor. I think it's going to look fairly decent with whatever games or flavors you wish to let it mix with. I think if you wanted to go with a more mech-based gaming system, it absolutely would look all right there. It's not too big, not too small. I guess if you really wanted to get creative and throw in some, like, you know, 6mm epic type stuff, that might be kind of interesting. In that case, I think you'd have a nice looking, you know, powered armor mech. Like if you wanted to use it as a Titan or something. Which is the front of this stand? I don't know. I think it's that way. So, again, you could really kind of use it for a lot of different opportunities. Games like Gamma Wolves or any other mech rules. That's the first one that comes to mind every time I think of mech stuff. But, you know, obviously, if you're going to go a little bit larger, there's plenty of games that I'm sure you can find a home for it in, even outside of Infinity. So, while the price point may be a bit high for the quality of the material, I do still feel that, at least gaming-wise, I'm sure you can find a lot of uses for a nice-looking mech like this. So all in all, not a bad-looking figure. It's just, I'd feel like if I can get it at a good price, I'd be a lot more inclined to recommend it more heartily, unless, obviously, you're a hardcore Infinity player. But I feel like those are getting kind of hard to find. I feel like after GW brought things up to modern standards and a lot of gamers went back to the fold, unfortunately. It seems like a lot of these smaller games have kind of struggled to continue to grow, which is a shame, I think. Or maybe it's just my area as well that I'm seeing that in. But nevertheless, it's always cool to see other games continuing to bring out new figures, and I'm always going to be down with that. So, with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye!